And China's central bank, of course, applauded the decision. The People's Bank of China says the inclusion of the RMB shows that the IMF approves of the opening up of the economy. And it added that the rise of the currency will lend more legitimacy to the so-called SDR basket, benefiting both China and the global economy. And for more insight into this topic, we're now joined by Haiyan Wang. He is the managing partner at the China-India Institute in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us, Haiyan.
Glad to be here.
All right, so the yuan has been included in the IMF group of international reserve currencies. Now, obviously, this is a huge milestone, but just how significant is this move?
I think that it really marks a significant milestone for the internationalization of yuan and recognize China's progress in the financial reforms. And long-term wise, we will see that the usage of yuan, both as a trade settlement currency and as a reserve currency, will significantly increase. And this is truly a great milestone in the integration of China's economy into the global economy and the financial systems as well.
Well, you know, it's interesting that just 3 months ago, as recently as August, the IMF considered the yuan too tightly controlled to qualify, but now the IMF says that Beijing has taken action to make the yuan, quote, freely usable. So what has changed from August to November?
I think that if you go by the IMF's criteria, the freely usability is widely used and as well as widely traded in principal foreign exchange market. I mean, in terms of percentage of usage, it is still very relatively small. I think that China accounts for 1.1% of the global foreign exchange reserves, perhaps about 3% of the trade settlement in terms of the currencies used. But if you look at the trajectory, it has been increasing significantly. China did take significant improvement in terms of opening up both capital accounts, in terms of liberalization of foreign exchange rate, in terms of setting up the international payment systems and the Hong Kong, Shanghai Stock Exchange. And in all of these measures, I think that China's moves towards financial reforms and opening up has been very impressive.
Well, come October of next year, the yuan is going to make up about 11% of that special drawing rights basket. Now, it is expected that there will be an increase in demand for the RMB, but how much of a demand increase do you forecast and over what time frame?
I think that the short-term impact is that all of the multilateral institutions that currently have SDR as assets, they will make a rebalancing, readjustment, and that add up to about $60 billion allocation to the renminbi assets. And if we assume that all of the global $12 trillion for global foreign exchange reserves, assuming that on an annual basis, another 1% gets reallocated to renminbi assets, that's another, could be $100 billion. Over long term, I would hope that the China's share, renminbi's share of global exchange reserves could increase from the current 1.1% to perhaps 8%, 10%, to mirror the weight of yuan in the SDR. And that could eventually lead to literally close to $1 trillion of demand for renminbi denominated
all
assets.
of this increased demand in the short term or the long term for the yuan is going to cause it to appreciate. So what does that mean for China, particularly the exporting sector and the manufacturing sector? China's economy is rebalancing now. It is seeing slower growth. Could this create more volatility? How do you see this stronger yuan impacting growth?
I think that it is not necessarily a one-way street that it necessarily will appreciate, at least not in the short term. There is still a lot of depreciation pressure from a slowing down of China's economy to a rising US dollar because of the anticipated interest rate rise in the United States. Definitely there will be more volatility, and that comes with, again, in the reserve currency status, that comes with opening up the capital accounts and the inflows and outflows of capital. And I think that, overall, it is a plus, for China, even though that Chinese financial regulators and investors have to deal with the volatility.
Well, you mentioned the US dollar, and the US has supported the inclusion of the yuan in the SDR. But what does all of this mean for the US dollar and for the other reserve currencies currently in the basket, the British pound, the Japanese yen, and the euro? What impact is it going to have on them?
I think that if there is an impact, gradual impact, that would take a long time because U.S. still dominates the global reserve currencies at 61 or 64% of the total of global reserve currencies. Still dominates as the payment currency for global trade. So the demand for Chinese yuan will be gradual, will be over time, and some of that have already been priced in actually into the foreign exchange rate. So I think that the change will not be too dramatic. Although long term there will be more fluctuations in terms of exchange rate.
Certainly a momentous move. Thank you so much for your insight, Haiyan Wang, Managing Partner at the China-India Institute.